to the Toni J Seven Figure Hustle Show. My name is Lori Scott, and I'm President and CEO of Life's Essential Documents. I'm here with Don Ballet of I cannot believe
South
it.
of the border is where I'm headed.
All right.
Keep going.
I'm here with Don Ballet, President and CEO of South Lane Wealth Management, along with my colleague Louis Fevrin, President and CEO of Louis Fevrin Insurance Agency. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us, Lori. Let's just get right into it. What are Life Essential Documents?
Life's Essential Documents is a company that helps people develop a life plan. In that, there are 5 documents that everybody on earth should have. There is your living will and your medical power of attorney, collectively called your advance directives, your financial power of attorney, your will, and what we also like to have folks include is a letter of instructions. Those documents help you to develop a plan for your life. Things change, life happens, be prepared. So how we attempt to move you to that is to give you some information, again, that you might not know about, and that is in getting these documents prepared. Your living will and your medical power of attorney, again, are collectively called your advance directives. That's where you tell someone in the event of an incapacitated state what you would like to have done to you. Like, for instance, I want to be an organ donor, or I want to have life support. Should I need antibiotics given to me if I need surgery? You're just giving directions, like the word says, the directive. You're giving directions to people or physicians so that they can get to you faster, get what you need, and cut your costs on having to run unnecessary tests or things that may not be needed. The second document that we like to give people information about is having a financial power of attorney prepared. That document acts much like the appointment of your medical power of attorney. In the event of an incapacitation, you need to appoint someone over your finances. So if you have bills that need to be paid, or you have things that need to be managed when you're unable to, you would appoint someone who is called your financial power of attorney. And that's the person who would then be able to take care of everything for you. But in appointing someone, especially over your finances, you have to be really careful, because that person then has the ability to do anything that you would be able to do. They become you. So they could sell your house, they could sell your cars, they could pretty much do anything. So it would have to be someone who you trusted implicitly. The third document, or fourth, we like to tell people about is to have a will prepared. If you're starting out, start with a simple will. You might not know, all the things that you have initially, or all the things and who you want to bequeath them to. So we advise that you get started if you start with a simple will. And then from there you can build. And then if you're going to do a simple will, there's something that's called a letter of instructions. And in that, you're able to say, you give direction to the person who you would appoint in your will as your executor or your executrix. An executor being the male, an executrix being a woman, same job. And a successor to each of those. You have a successor, a primary, and a successor in your powers of attorney documents. You would also have one in your will. And the letter of instructions would then say, I want to have red roses at my funeral, or I want so-and-so to take care of my pet. It kind of covers those areas that people don't really think about, because most people don't want to talk about a will. That's why we advise on the 5 documents, the entire package, because 3 of them are for your life and for your living. The other 2 are for your passing. And that is a great segue down for me to get to you is, of those 3 documents, those need to be prepared before you can devise a wealth plan, correct?
They are absolutely essential to anything you're going to do, especially if you really want to become wealthy. The best way to wipe out your wealth is to die without a will, to not have correct life insurances or insurances on anything, your house, your car, your life, whether you have any type of coverage that could protect your family. in the case of a medical emergency or a long-term illness, or even something such as a tragic accident. Yeah, that's the best way to wipe out your estate. And if your estate is not an enormous estate, and you have children and grandchildren who you may be taking care of, you have a mortgage on your house, if you have outside debts, credit card debts, college loans still outstanding, people in their 30s and 40s still have college loans. You went to medical school, law school, the expenses are rising dramatically. So many people have such a high level of debt. And if you love your family and you don't want to leave them with that burden, you need to insure against that. And so as you're starting to develop what your job is going to be in the future, where you're going to work, live, who you're going to marry, how you're going to build your wealth, when you're going to start saving, how you're going to save, all those should really follow having a plan in place. So you do that. You can always get a job, you can always make money, you can always grow wealth, but what happens if that plan is interrupted? And I think most people think, I get a job, I pay my debts, I get old, and I retire and die. And it doesn't always work as seamlessly as that. Something can get in the way in many, many instances. And so you want to be prepared with your documents, you want to be prepared, and Lewis can discuss the insurance aspects of it. But if you're starting to generate wealth, you can only manage money if you grow your wealth without it having been taken. So really once you have your documents in place, the first step to growing wealth is have an emergency fund.
Okay.
If you have no money, and what is the statistic now, 65% of the country, I think it's actually even higher than that, can't put together $400 for a medical emergency without borrowing money from a friend or relative. That doesn't speak well to the wealth of our country, which is a big topic right now, the wealth disparity in our country. And how you can avoid being in that negative part
in that bracket, yeah,
is by starting first, before you buy your fancy car, go on that wild vacation. We'd all love to go on vacations and buy nice cars, but you really don't need either of those. What you do need is a bank account that has some money to protect you so that you can continue to live well when things come up that might interrupt that. And then once you have that, you can then start investing your money in a myriad of ways, whether it's an IRA, a 401k, or 403b at work, whether you're just putting money aside in the stock market in a taxable brokerage account. You can start building. You can buy real estate. You can do many, many things to build wealth. But if you're doing all of that and your plan isn't set, life's events get in the way of planning. Life happens.
Right, life
And
happens.
so
Absolutely.
it's amazing. There's a term on Wall Street, risk happens fast. So everybody gets really complacent, market's going up, everybody's happy. Suddenly the market drops 20% and everybody's shocked. It took months and months to go up and 3 or 4 days to go down. It's the same in your life. You could spend years and years building your wealth, and one sudden unforeseen event can wipe out your wealth. And that's okay if it's just you. You can start over, hopefully, if you're young enough. But if you have a family and children and obligations, that becomes an issue for everybody. And I think the way you get around that is you first start saving, and then you start looking at how you're insuring. And if you have children and you don't have life insurance, you should think about not having children right away. Because if you have 5 children and you get run over by a bus, how is your spouse going to care for those 5 children if they're not the one working? So maybe Lewis can kind of clue us in the best way to go about doing something like that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Now you have your documents. Now you've assessed what you have to see where you need to begin to build your wealth. And then, Lewis, how does the insurance piece fit in?
Well, the insurance piece fits in because what it is, it's the answer against risk. Risk is any of those unforeseen things that you don't plan. Because as Don stated, your plan is to get a job, you get married, you buy the house, you hopefully put some savings aside, you put some money aside for retirement, maybe some money aside for the kids' education, and you hope that you retire. That's the game plan that everybody wants to follow. But the reality is things will happen. You could get in a car accident. It could be your fault. You have your own medical bills plus the medical bills of the other people that you got into the accident with. Now, guess what? Your retirement plan that you've been saving up, your kids' college plan that you've been saving up, your savings plan, all that's on the line if you don't have the proper coverage. So when you look at your total protection, we're talking about looking at the car insurance and making sure you're not just getting the cheapest price, but you're getting the adequate coverage to make sure that if an accident happens, that you're not on the hook, and everything that you've worked hard on for is not on the hook now. We're looking at your home insurance or renter's insurance. Make sure that if something tragic was to happen, hey, look, if we could all get a new wardrobe, we'd buy one today, right?
Right.
Most of us can't just buy a whole new wardrobe. So we want to look at those types of protection. We want to look at disability insurance because let's be honest here, your income drives everything. All your goals are driven by your income. So if you get hurt in that car accident or just playing basketball, running around with your kids, and you severely sprain your leg or something like that, and you can't go to work, what do? Because the bills aren't going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
The obligations don't ever stop. So disability income protects your income. So if you do get injured, that income could continue coming. Or if you're at a higher age and you're thinking about, whether it's Alzheimer's or you just can't take care of yourself anymore and you need some help, we may need to look at long-term care, which gives you the option of either going to a nursing home or staying at home and having somebody take care of you from your home. And last, of course, life insurance. Life insurance, we always assume that we're talking about death. And yes, life insurance, when you die, you leave money aside for your loved ones and you're protecting them, especially if you tragically die at a young age where you have young kids. Look, if one person, especially if one person was working and the other one was staying home, somebody's got to go to work now.
Right.
Right. And that's the reality. And you want to make sure the kids are taken care of because guess what? Somebody's still got to take care of those kids while the other one has to work now. So life insurance, it deals with death, but guess what? Life insurance, if it's structured properly, also can become a pension for you if your kids have their own kids now and they're not an obligation for you now. Now it's just you and your spouse, and you want to start taking those dream vacations that you held off all those years because you had those obligations. Guess what? Now you could start pulling money out of a life insurance policy to take that dream vacation, or if the boiler just breaks.
Right.
Real life
When that happens.
$5,000. I mean, let's look at it. Where are you going to pull it out from? You could say your savings. Most people pull out $5,000 out of their savings, either wiping it out or seriously depleting it. You could say your retirement plan, and take it out of there. Okay, to take $5,000 out of that, you got to remember your uncle's cut as well. So you may need to take out almost $8,000 to $10,000 to get that $5,000.
And as well, if you take money out of your retirement accounts pre-retirement,
right,
and the market is moving ahead, or worse, it's going down, you're interrupting the opportunity to grow for what you need. And now you need to not only put back what you took out, but possibly a great amount more.
Right.
Because you're falling behind. Your money is not compounding or growing on itself anymore.
Right.
And that's a very negative thing as you get older.
Right.
Give up your cup of coffee or your night out with the friends at a fancy restaurant once in a while. Not every time, because you want to live today as well. But can you give it up once in a while and take that money and save it? I think everybody can do, at the very least, that. And I find if people do things that make them healthier, they become wealthy. So let's take a couple examples. Mm-hmm. If you're overeating, you become overweight, and then you become ill over time. So now you have to see the doctor. That costs you money. Your clothes wear out faster. You're eating more food. And you're probably not feeling as healthy as you would otherwise, so you're not working at a highly productive rate. So if you give up a little food, you have lower grocery bills, your clothes last longer, don't wear out as quickly, you feel better so you can work harder and you can make more money. If you smoke, maybe give up smoking, because smoking, I'm sure Lewis will tell you,
you're going to pay a price for it.
You're going to pay a lot more for your insurances.
And not just money.
And absolutely, your health is going to go downhill, and so you're going to need more health care, which is money out of your pocket, because let's be honest, you pay your health insurance premium, but then there's the deductible, there's the copay, and then there's the co-insurance that most people don't pay attention to, and that co-insurance could be 50% or more of a surgery.
Right.
And most people, 50+% of all bankruptcies in this country are caused by medical emergencies. So taking good care of yourself, is a path to financial well-being as well as personal well-being. And that extra money you can save by not over-drinking, not smoking, not overeating, exercising properly. You don't have to join a gym. You can walk in the park. You can walk with your friends. You can go to people walk around the malls. So many ways to get exercise without paying a health club. If you have the money, that's fine. If you like the health club experience, cut something else out. But there's always a way to get that savings. And if you're doing all these things and you don't have an emergency fund, then all those things cease when the emergency happens. So not only do you have no money to pay for it, but you can't do all the things you like anyway. So that's why the emergency fund is so important.
These all just seem like common sense solutions to me. Okay.
Common sense is very uncommon, it seems.
That seems to be the way things are going these days. So here's what I think I'm hearing. I know I need to make a life plan so that I can sit back and relax and enjoy this life that I'm working so hard for. And if I don't plan to succeed, I plan to fail. I'll never get that peace of mind that I want, to be able to sit back and plan that vacation instead of doing things on the spur, because I know that people just get so fed up sometimes and so tired. I just need a break. So I'm going to take this money, and I know I was saving it for that, and I hear this all the time, but I'll put it back. Does it really get put back?
It almost never gets put back. The numbers bear it out. The savings rate in this country is abysmal. People just don't save. When you have so many people can't afford $400 for something. They can't afford $1,000 for something. And this country is expensive. Everything here, ask the college students coming out with $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 in debt. Mm-hmm. That's a mortgage, but they don't have a house. They just have the mortgage for it. And if they can't find a job, or they're working 3 jobs to pay that mortgage, then they can't get married yet, can't have children yet, can't buy a house yet. And so they hurt the economy for everybody because they're not sharing in the wealth of the economy. A wealthy country is a fast-moving country that can actually have the things for everybody that everybody wants. So the most important aspect is to start. The age you start doesn't matter. If you're 50 and haven't started, start today. If you're 40, if you're 30, I tell all my nieces and nephews, if you're young and you're going to get married, you should think about are you planning to have children one day? If you're going to buy a house with your spouse, or you're going to buy real estate or do other things, do you have any savings yet? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have life insurance so that if you get married and your spouse is pregnant and you get run over by a bus on the way to work, she doesn't have to go back to work 9 months pregnant? Have you thought of these things beforehand? And so many people don't. So many people let life happen to them. Mm-hmm. They don't take
control. Participant in your life.
They can plan out a 3-week Disney vacation 3 years in advance, but they can't plan anything financial because no one's either taught them or they're just not interested because they're just letting it happen. And I think that's an important aspect of anybody's life. This country revolves around credit and finance. Mm-hmm. If you have money and you have good credit, you can have anything. If you don't, you can only have what is afforded to you.
And one thing I want to mention too, a lot of people think you have to have a lot of money in order to, start. The reality is it's really about respecting what you do have. I don't care if you have 2 cents. You work hard, make sure that 2 cents is working just as hard as you are. And it could be simple things like doing a little research online and finding an online bank that is still FDIC insured, that's paying a higher interest rate than what your brick and mortar bank is offering you, which is nil. There are so many options out there and new technology out there where you could actually grow your money at a much better rate if you just do a little bit of homework. And it doesn't cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't have to come in with, large amounts. As Don said, if you could do $25 a month, which just about anybody can, because I can promise you, almost all of us are just wasting that money just on our ATM withdrawals and walking to Wawa. We're all spending that money. So it's really just about time and discipline. The younger you start, the better advantage you have for sure, because now you have time on your hand and it requires even less money to really build wealth. But really, if there's time, discipline, and compounding interest are only things that you really need. You have those 3 things. I don't care how much money you make, you can be maybe not a millionaire, but you could be financially free.
Yeah, we might find that change in our couch.
It's so easy to be a millionaire in this country. I don't think people do the math. All you need to be a millionaire is put $3,000 to $4,000 a year in the S&P 500, get the average return of about 7% over the next 40 years from 25 to 65, and you'll have well over $1 million.
Yeah.
But you can't touch the money. You can't raid that money from time to time and then try to put it back, because then you interrupt your dividends and the growth you're getting over time. So the idea is to be in it longer term. And to your point about banking, I absolutely agree. So many people waste money on fees. So they overdraft their account because they're not keeping a register. It's $35 every time you overdraft. So if you go into the mall and you buy a pair of sneakers and get a cup of coffee and a cookie, each one of those things costs you $35 more if you're in overdraft. And you need to pay attention to these things. That's money that could be going into your retirement accounts. And over time, true wealth is built over time. Very few people hit the lottery, become LeBron James and make millions and millions in playing basketball, or inherit the money. Most people have to work for it, but many people in this country can be a lot wealthier if they choose to be. The wealth is concentrated because everybody is giving the wealthy all their money. That's fine, except you can have your share too, and then you can spend more, and the wealthier will get wealthier. Nothing wrong with everybody having some money, but having nothing is not the way you're going to live comfortably, especially in old age.
Okay, so I have a question then. So I'm a novice. I don't know what S&P means. I don't know what the index means, and I don't know anything about the markets. So how can I, as an average Joe Schmo, get started with that?
That's a great question. There is a wealth of knowledge online. You can go to Yahoo Finance or any of the sites online, and there's a great site called Investopedia, where you can go, and it's almost like going to a university or a high school. And it's all about investing. You can read about every part of the market. Reading is the best way to educate yourself. Schools are fine. If you read the things you like, you're going to be more engaged and you're going to learn. And so you can read about what the stock market is, what the bond market is, what a CD is, a certificate of deposit at a bank. What risk do you like to take in the market? What do you want to invest in? And then you can hire or engage a financial advisor at a bank or a brokerage firm or a wirehouse or any of these other groups that can actually help educate you on where to put your money, how to invest, how to think about what your risk tolerance is, and how long you have to be in it to grow. So if you have a goal, again, we're goals based. If you have a goal, I'm 25, I'd like to be a millionaire at 60. Well, that's easy because I can do the math. 25 to 65 is X number of years divided by how much money I needed at how much percent, and can get me there. But if you don't put the money away, you won't be a millionaire unless someone gives you the money. And I don't know anybody who's running around giving people millions of dollars just to be a millionaire. So the idea is to be in it long term. And it's not going to seem like a lot at first. If you put $25 a month in an account, at the end of the month you have $25 and you look around and say, I can't retire on that. No, if you're 60, you definitely can. If you're 25, yes, 40 years is a long time for your money to grow.
Yeah.
And money getting dividends and interest over long periods of time grows and grows and compounds on itself. And that's how people become very wealthy and successful. And there's plenty of books out there. There's a book, The Millionaire Next Door. You look to your left and you look to your right and look at the houses, and you can't tell who's the millionaire and who's broke by how many cars are out front. And a lot of people who have million or more savings over long periods won't tell you they're millionaires. They're very quiet about it. They know they're going to live well. They let you live the way you're going to live. But they know in retirement or in illness and sickness, they're going to have the money to take very good care of themselves, whereas you might not. So
and that's why I asked, because what I also want to give to Tony J's audience, that the only stupid question is the one you don't ask.
Correct.
Because we don't know what we don't know. And Louis, I had another question for you, or a comment maybe. So what I hear you saying, that people typically think I need insurance for death, or I need insurance for medical issues, or I always need insurance for a bad situation. But what I heard you say was there's a benefit to having insurance, not just death and sickness, but it can be used as a wealth building tool.
That's correct. Life insurance, what people don't realize, especially with permanent life insurance, it has a component called cash value. So what I like to explain with permanent insurance, think of it when you buy a house. So when you buy a house, you pay your mortgage, and your mortgage is split up between two different parts. Portion of it is going towards your interest, that's the money that's going towards the bank, and a portion of it is going towards principal. That's where you start building up equity in your home. Life insurance works similar. So the premiums that you pay in permanent life insurance, a portion of it is going towards death benefit. And in the beginning portion, just like when you first buy a house, most of that money is going towards that death benefit. Because the reality is, you buy $100,000 life insurance today, a year later you die, $100,000 is getting paid out to your beneficiaries. You clearly haven't put in $100,000. Right. So yeah, in the beginning, most of your premium is going towards that death benefit because they know, if something tragic happens, they got to pay out that large sum. But as time goes on, more of that money starts going towards that cash value. And that cash value is actually tax-free income that's building up over there. So your thought process when you bought the life insurance was, yes, if something tragically happened to me, I want to make sure my family's protected. But as I stated, as time goes on, your family grows and your kids have their own kids. They're not a responsibility anymore. It's really about you and your spouse at that point, really. And you're really concerned about taking care of yourself. Well, over time, and we're talking about, again, time, not overnight success. There is no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme.
Absolutely
it just
not.
doesn't happen. Over time, so 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line, you've built up over $50,000 of tax-free income. And here's the other great thing that I failed to mention. Even if you bought a fixed life insurance, the average return on that is about 3.5%, 4%. Show me what bank out there is paying 3.5%, 4%. I mean, we're begging for 1% these days.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you're growing this money at a 3.5%, let's be conservative, a 3% clip. So imagine that compounding interest over the next 30, 40 years.
Okay, so a tough question.
I like it for another reason, if I can, because
Okay.
it's on the same topic. I like it as a forced savings. So many people aren't disciplined in their 401ks or their IRAs or even their savings account.
Right.
But if you have to pay a bill, you think, I have to pay this bill, so you save the money and you pay the bill. And that money is going into to cash value.
Right.
That you can then have a pool of money. If there's an emergency, you finally have an emergency fund. Not the first place I would go to raid if I needed some money. Hopefully I had it in my bank. But if you're consistently paying that bill to protect your family with the life insurance, you'll have that pool of money.
Well, time is relative. So if we're talking about a 25-year-old, we're talking about 40 years. Now, if we're talking to a 30-year-old, we're talking about a shorter period of time. If we're talking to a 50-year-old, we're talking a shorter period of time. So it's all about time. It's relative towards that individual. And you have to structure towards what the individual needs are. So there is no one product fits all either.
Okay.
In my mind, retirement's a myth. If you retire, you better have something else to do, because what are you going to do with your day? Days are long when you have nothing to do.
Right.
If you love your work, or if you're older and you haven't saved to the 7-figure hustle point, you can go out and get multiple jobs and try to catch up by increasing your income that way. And if you are going to work later into your 60s and 70s, or just keep working, then you don't have to save as much if you're going to keep working. The trick becomes, as you get older, are you going to still be healthy enough to work?
Right.
And that's why you want to prepare and start as early as possible.
All right, so in closing, I just want to say a couple things that I think were great takeaways. Is we want to educate on how to plan for life's interruptions. Things change, life happens, be prepared. You can reach us at Life's Essential Documents, and I'm sure that Tony J will give that information out. But you can give us a call if you have questions, if there was any value in this and it's piqued your curiosity just a little. Give us a call. At least be proactive in your life. Don't wait for life to happen to you. Be proactive. Get yourself a life plan. Then assess what your wealth is, and get insurance to not only take care of your family, but to help build a better lives for them now. Thank you so much, Tony J, for having us.
Thank you.